Hey second grade, today we are going to talk about area. But before I get into that, I was wondering if any of you have ever played chess, or maybe if you know of the game chess, have you ever seen something like this? I have a chess board here, and I see that it has 8 rows of squares. So let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows of squares. And I also see that each row has 8 squares. Let's see if I'm right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I want to challenge you. I want you to try and figure out how many squares there are in this chessboard in all. So if you need to pause the video to figure that out right now, go ahead and do that. And then tell me the answer out loud. How many squares are there in this chessboard in all? Okay, you should have figured out that there were 64 squares. Awesome, thank you. We are going to come back to the chessboard later, but for right now, I want you to think about this next question. It says, what is a surface? Think about that for a moment. What is a surface? Well, a surface is the top or the outside of an object. Let me give you an example. The tabletop, or the top part of the table here, is a surface. Okay? It is the top or the outside of the object. Now, I want you to think. Can you think of some examples of a surface in your house? What are some objects that might have a surface? Well, I can think of the cover of a book because that is the top or the outside of an object and it's flat. And I also could think of a bed. So it's got a top flat part, okay? Now, most surfaces have boundaries or borders. And look at the book. Do you see how it has borders? These borders give the surface its shape. Okay, so when you want to measure the amount of surface inside of that shape, that is what you call the area. Okay, let's look at this, and it might seem a little bit long, but we are going to read it together slowly, okay? Read with me. It says, sometimes you want to know the amount of surface inside a shape. This amount of surface inside of the shape is the area of the shape. So if we are trying to figure out the amount of surface in this shape, that would be the area. Okay, we are going to try to figure that out. But first, it is really important for you to remember that area is measured in square units. Okay, I'm going to repeat that, and you are going to fill in the blanks. Ready? Area is measured in square units. Area is measured in square units, and you could either measure that in square centimeters or square inches. Here in this little example, we see that we used inches, and every single side of this square measures the exact same length, 1 inch. Okay, now think back to that chessboard that we were looking at earlier. Now you helped me figure out how many squares there were in the chessboard in all. You may have not realized it, but you actually were helping me find the area of the chessboard. Now the area of that chessboard was 64 square units. Okay? Now remember that area is the amount of surface inside of a shape. So you helped me figure out the amount of surface inside of this chessboard. Okay? Now let's look at this rectangle that we have here, and it's kind of like divided into little squares. Let's pretend that each square is 1 inch. each square is 1 inch. Okay? Now, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about perimeter, and we had said that perimeter is the distance along the outside of a shape. So if we know that each of these squares is 1 inch, and we are measuring the perimeter, the outside of the shape, let's try to figure that out together. So 1 inch, 2 inches, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 inches. That would be the perimeter. But we are not looking for the perimeter of this rectangle. Today we are looking for the area. Remember, I'm going to say it again. Area is the amount of surface area, or the amount of surface inside of a shape. So we are going to count the inside to try and figure out the area. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 square units, and remember that each of these square units measured 1 inch. Okay, so our answer would be 6 square inches. That's the area of this rectangle. Okay, in your math journal, you're going to be working on a couple pages, but I wanted to look at one of the examples first. So page 222 shows you a rectangle that kind of looks like this. This is going to be number 3. I just want you to look at that with me for a moment because it might be a little tricky, so I want to explain that to you. So the directions say to use the tick marks. These are the tick marks right here. Okay, use the tick marks to draw lines to show square units. Now you are going to need a ruler to draw in the lines that are in that rectangle that you were given. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to draw in those lines. And there you have it. Now when you have drawn the lines, you are going to count the squares inside the rectangle to try and figure out the area. And this one looks exactly like the example that I gave you before. So the area here would be 6 square inches. Okay, that's it. Work on those couple pages and let me know if you have any questions.